let's get this thing started. This is the best football show live right here, 11 a.m. On the East Coast. I'm here at NFL Films. I'm Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL on all your social media platforms: Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. You can get this podcast daily right here on your free Odyssey app. You can download it, like it, subscribe to it, tell your friends about it. But we're live, taking all your questions. A lot of stuff as we get ready for Week 7, starting tonight. Denver and Sean Payton return to New Orleans here for that matchup. Two rookie quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler. Bo Nix will make his 7th straight start, coming off a kind of a disappointing game last week, but against the Chargers. But credit the Chargers. They're actually the number 1 defensive football right now after 6 weeks. And the Saints are just beat up. There'll be no Chris Olave, no Taysom Hill, no Rashid Shaheed. I mean, no Eric McCoy. I don't know, Cesar Ruiz is gone. They're just really beat up right now. And so, Spencer Rattler threw a touchdown pass in his first NFL start because of the injury to Derek Carr last week, to Bub Means, 2 fifth-round picks, Rattler and Means, connecting for a touchdown. Did some nice things out there, but they're awfully beat up. And honestly, they haven't played well since Week 3 against the Eagles, when they literally lost Eric McCoy, their starting center. They lost Cesar Ruiz in that game, and they haven't been the same since. So that's that. But that'll kick off Week 7. Sean Payton coming back to New Orleans. I'm sure Sean will be just like this, just focused. The Chargers did some good things against Denver's defense, who has been playing great. They lost Patrick Surtain in that game against the Chargers early, and I think that affected them a little bit. He's been the best corner in football this year. Won the Raider game the week before with that 102-yard pick six and another interception. He's just been playing great. Shut down Garrett Wilson the week before that against the Jets. He's been awesome. So, they're down a corner. I don't know when Surtain's going to be ready to go, but Sean will make sure it's not about him. He won't be out there rubbing elbows with Mickey Loomis or, talking to Alvin Kamara. He won't be doing that. Maybe after the game, but not before the game. He wants his team to get back into playoff contention, back in contention in the AFC West. They need this win. Like I said, the Saints, they gave up 51 last week to New Orleans, or to Tampa, and that's after Baker threw some interceptions. They've scored 51. They put a running back there that had never played before, and he had 192 total yards of offense. Defensively, they're not very good either. So they give a lot of defensive pass interference penalties. I like Denver to go and win tonight. I like Denver's defense. I think they play the game the right way. I think New Orleans will have a hard time running the ball. The one guy that I would watch out for New Orleans is this kid, Mason Tipton, out of Yale. Everybody I talked to in New Orleans, and I saw him a couple weeks ago, said he's the fastest guy on the team. That means faster than, Rashid Shaheed, who was one of the, big, deep threats in his whole business, and returned a punt for a touchdown last week. So look out. They've been trying to get the ball to him. They haven't connected. Maybe this is the night, without Surtain in there, that Tipton gets loose. It's just a name to look forward, to look out for tonight in tonight's game. But the spotlight will be on Sean Payton for sure, and should. Brought the Saints their only Super Bowl, had, won the division multiple times, was a great coach with Drew Brees. Now, he got Drew Brees in his 5th year in the NFL. He'd already started a lot of games, and then the two of them, they found greatness together. Bo Nix is the first quarterback he's ever really tried to develop. And so, they're on their 3rd string right tackle right now, backup center. There's some issues there. You may see some of these rookies for him. Devon, Ville, Estemic, the running back. You might see, Sean might be saying, let's just go with the young guys at this point. So anyways, let's get to some of the big games. Detroit, Minnesota is a huge game. All right. And really the matchup in this game is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions, and Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator of the Vikings. The Vikings, they're taking the ball away. They're sacking the quarterback. They're 5-0. They're at home. But the one thing Detroit does is they run the ball the old-fashioned way. They don't really try to trick you. Although they have tricks and gimmicks, they just literally short yardage, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, goal line offense. They just win the old-fashioned way. They don't do what Philadelphia does and push yourself across the line. They just line up and knock you off the ball. And that's what I think Detroit's mission is going to be against a very talented Viking defense and very well-coached defense. But if Detroit wants to just run the ball down their throats, I think they have that ability. Kevin Zeitler is the right guard, number 71. He's in his 13th year. Kevin Zeitler doesn't miss practice. He doesn't miss games. He doesn't miss seasons. He literally lines up every single week and plays. And whether he's in Cleveland or Cincinnati or Baltimore or now Detroit, you put him next to Penei Sewell, that could be as good a right side of the line as there is in all the NFL. Then you combine that with, Ragnow and Brown and, Taylor Decker. I mean, they're really good. And they got 2 great backs in Montgomery and Gibbs. I feel like that's a matchup that I think favors the Lions. But the Lions are going to be without Aiden Hutchinson the rest of the season. And it's impossible to know just how big of a loss this is going to be. Every time they step in the huddle, they're going to feel the loss of Aiden just because of his presence, his effort, his energy, and his talent. Like, there's nobody else out there. There's Max Crosby, TJ. There's guys that are comparable. But for Detroit, he was like the perfect end. He could line up anywhere. He's intercepted passes, sacked quarterbacks, forced fumbles, he's just a great player. And they had lost Marcus Davenport earlier. So they're going to be man down. And I'm not sure how they're going to compensate for that right now. And we'll see if Minnesota can take advantage of it. They didn't play well in their last start against the Jets defense. I'm sure Kevin O'Connell will have a couple of weeks, to really kind of get ready for it. I'm headed myself, after I finish this podcast, I'm heading to San Francisco. I'll be out there for the Super Bowl rematch. The newest owner of the Las Vegas Raiders will be there. Tom Brady announcing the game with Kevin Burkhardt and Aaron Andrews. Be good to visit with them down the field before the game. But I'm looking forward to this. Kansas City, and it's interesting what the schedule makers did. Kansas City is coming off a bye, so they had 2 weeks after they played the Saints to get ready for this game. And San Francisco played on a Thursday night 10 days ago. So the schedule makers wanted a Super Bowl rematch. They, Fox probably pitched hard for the game, knowing that Brady would be doing the game. And if the game was, went to overtime last year. So you get all of that. You get all these teams rested as much as you can rest during the season, as healthy as you can get them. And then you look at Andy Reid coming out of a bye in both Philadelphia and Kansas City. I mean, he's 21-4 as a coach coming out of the bye. And we used to talk to him all the time when he was in Philly. He just does everything you're supposed to do. He self-scouts his own team. He looks at ways that he can tweak the offense, whether it's red zone, whether it's a slant series, you name it. They really go to work on themselves, and they come out ready. He's got them ready to go. He'll give them the week off, all that stuff. Players enjoy that, but when they come back, it'll feel like training camp when they come back to get ready. There'll be some banging. There'll be a lot of padded practices this week, to get ready. So I feel like Brock Purdy has to play his best game. He's played well. He's played very well in some games this year. I feel like he's got to play his best game against a defense that gives everybody problems. People have a hard time trying to block Chris Jones in all phases of the game. You got to contend with Spags' changeups and his looks. He's got 3 linebackers he could put out there: Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, along with Drew Tranquil. 3 big linebackers. They want to stuff your run, and that's what San Francisco wants to do. They got 3 big guys that can come downhill and blow plays up. And I have a feeling you might see those 3 linebackers on the field on first downs against San Francisco's run. And then it's a cat and mouse game. Spags and Kyle Shanahan. I see a question here from Grant about Ayuk. Look, Ayuk isn't getting his target as much. This is not, I don't know, this is not Major League Baseball designated hitter. You just put a guy in the lineup and he just hits again. This timing that Ayuk and Purdy had last year isn't quite the same yet this year. I think he can get there, but you miss all the offseason, all training camp. You miss a lot. There's the offense is a little bit different, a little bit different personnel. There's no McCaffrey. So, and while Jordan Mason has run exceedingly well, and then Garendo ran well when Mason got hurt last week, McCaffrey really presents a different challenges to defenses. And so it's almost impossible to take everybody away. But the concentration for most defenses was McCaffrey. And since he hasn't played, now it has shifted. Now, Mason's still a beast in the run game. He's second in the league in rushing. And he's very, very good. But he doesn't present the same challenges that McCaffrey does and how teams defend the 49ers. So I think that's also part of it. I think those are the two things. So look, for you Steeler fans out there, appreciate the compliment. I just want to give a shout out to Sean Elliott. Sean Elliott's on his fourth team in 4 years. But Sean Elliott came out of the University of Texas. He was drafted by the Ravens in the 6th round. Like that guy, he ran in the 4.5s at 205 pounds. But that guy plays the game fast. You watch him last week, against the Raiders. He led the team in tackles. He leads the team in tackles right now. He's the strong safety. Mink is the free safety. They are interchangeable depending on looks. But by law, mostly, Sean's the strong safety. And together, they're a great tandem. Last week, TJ punches the ball out of Amir Abdullah's, arms, and there's Sean Elliott with the fumble recovery. I mean, it's going to be a one-score game if they score there. So that's that. Cam Hayward introduced, he went up against a rookie, Jackson Powers Johnson, last week. He just schooled him. TJ Watt punches the ball out twice. They're getting Alex Highsmith back. They're playing great. This is a challenge for this. And so, really, if you put Highsmith, and it's a shame Herbig is still banged up because they have probably the best three tandems of outside rushers in the league. But this matchup favors the Steelers' defense. I know Devontae's there, but Aaron's have been hit a lot, sacked a lot, pressured a lot. He's trying to get rid of the ball as quickly as he can. The Steelers make it difficult for you to do that. So, to me, I know there's probably a quarterback change that's going on in Pittsburgh to Russell. I don't really understand it. I would keep Justin Fields in there. He's run for 5 touchdowns. He's thrown for 5. He's taking care of the football. The line, they lost Zach Frazier last week. He's a great player. I thought he was the best offensive player they had. So the right tackle is not playing great, Broderick Jones. They lost their starting right guard. They're banged up. Got a rookie in there playing right now, Mason McCormick. I'd stay with Justin Fields just because the line is very uncertain. Now they're going to get Jaylen Warren back healthier, and Najee's coming off his best game in years. So, they want to run it. The Jets have been pretty good against the run outside of that opening series against Buffalo last week. But I think it's going to be low scoring. We'll see. Like the Jets have just been penalized a lot. A lot of defensive pass interference penalties, a lot of penalties on their offensive line. Last week, they were terrible in the red zone against Buffalo. Maybe Devontae makes a difference. Maybe if they get, Breece Hall running down to the 3-yard line and they get first and goal at the 3, maybe with Devontae this week, Aaron and Devontae can rekindle their old magic from 3 years ago, and that's a long time to try and get that timing back again. But, maybe they score from the 3 with Devontae. Last week they couldn't do it. They had to kick field goal. So I don't think Devontae cures all the Jets' ails. Pass rush isn't as good as it was a year ago. The run defense has been shady, and the penalties are up. So, but overall, they've kept the score down in most games. But I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. And I think I would favor Pittsburgh because of their defense right now. Let's go. Do you think the Browns start to lean on Chubb? Right? Yeah. Well, of course. That's the way the offense was built. Was built for Nick Chubb. I don't know what kind of shape Nick is in. I don't think the Browns know. How many carries is enough to kind of break him, get him back into the flow after, missing a full season plus with that knee. So I'm sure Jerome Ford is going to be a part of it. They lost their starting center. They've lost two starting centers now. They lost Posick. They lost Nick Harris last week. They're banged up front. But this has always been, under Stefanski, a run-first offense. They haven't been that this year. Now that they lost Amari, I would think that, yes, I would think that they would lean heavily on Chubb. And I don't know if, what the pitch count is going to be for Nick. 15 carries? Like, I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if he gets 20 carries. But it depends on how he feels. If he's saying, like, feed me, coach, I feel great. Let me keep going. My knees, it's not a worry. He wants to see how it feels. He wants to see how he feels when he takes his first hit, this weekend against Cincinnati. So I think Chubb's going to get fed. I honestly don't know how much right now. Let's see. Defensive player of the year. I mean, look, I would have said Aiden Hutchinson, before the injury last week. He leads the league in sacks, not just because of that. I mean, I would lean on that. I mean, but you have to look at Xavier McKinney. He's got 5 interceptions. The defense leads the league in takeaways with 17. They're on pace to maybe set a record under, Jeff Hafley's, new defense. So you have to consider him. You have to consider Dexter Lawrence. Giants defense is playing great. He's got 7 sacks. You got to look at Chris Jones, in Kansas City. The sack numbers aren't up, but nobody can block him in this league right now, and they're undefeated. I would say that you have to consider hold on one second because I don't want to blank here. But I would say that, what Brian Flores is doing, and you look at Andrew Van Ginkel, between sacks, 2 interception returns for touchdowns, I think all those guys are in play. And, the way TJ played last week, he's always in play. Max Crosby tells me he's going to change the game this week. So I think, after Aiden went down, there's 4 or 5 guys that, could take home that prize after 6 weeks right now. What do we think? Okay, Texans and Packers. Packers looked great last week. I mean, they jumped on top of the Cardinals 24-0 in the second quarter, and then they just put them away. I know Matt LaFleur came out a month ago and said it makes him vomit when he hears about who's your number 1 wide receiver, because he feels like it could be Wicks, it could be Dobbs, it could be Reed, it could be all these guys. Jaden Reed's their best. He's their best player. Christian Watson. To me, Jaden Reed is their most difficult guy to defend. And whether he's running it, whether designing plays for him, to me, he looks like their number 1. I'm sure LaFleur says, well, look what Christian Watson did in the end zone last week, winning that jump ball, or Romeo Dobbs catching a big touchdown pass in a blitz 0 and beating a good corner for a touchdown. Defensively, they're taking the ball away. The one thing about Houston, now they played great last week against against a broken down Patriot team. Will Anderson is the defensive player of the week. 3 sacks, tip ball interception, all this stuff. That offensive line that New England had up there, I didn't even know who some of the guys were, to be honest with you. I mean, but the one thing that Houston has been guilty of this year, and it has hurt them, is they commit a lot of penalties. I think they have 59 penalties through 6 games. It's a lot. And a lot of them are on the offensive line, and it puts them in negative positions right now. I don't know if Nico Collins is going or not. I think this game favors the Packers right now. Now we'll see how the Packers tackles Zach Tom, how they handle, whether it's Danielle Hunter or Will Anderson, how they handle those edge rushers. I think they get Danico Autry back this week, if I'm not mistaken. I got to check that. He's a really good interior pass rusher. So, but I kind of like Jordan Love in the way that he played last week. and I like the Packers in this game, but it should be a high scoring game. I think both offenses are pretty good. What's up with the Eagles offense? Well, they haven't scored in the first quarter this year, which is mind-boggling. Let's face it, you basically start every kickoff at the 30-yard line. It's like arena football. I mean, all you need is 35 yards of offense, and you're in field goal range. They haven't scored a point in the first quarter of 6 games. That's the problem. Problem getting started is problem executing is problem sustaining offense. Like, this issue is real. Last week, Saquon had a terrible game. Like, they ran plays. I'm shaking my head in the film room. They ran plays that you can't run. You can't run a counter tray run where you're pulling the backside guard and tackle, Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata. You can't run that play if you don't account for Myles Garrett. Because all he's going to do is trail that tackle. That's his job. So he trailed it right to Saquon and tackled him twice on the play. Like, everybody knows you can't run that play. Unless it was called wrong or, it was wrong formation, which is on the quarterback and the coordinator both. But you can't run that play. So little things like that, Now, it helps that obviously AJ's back in the lineup and Devontae's back. They scored the 2 touchdowns last week. But don't underestimate this Giants defense. They played very well against Seattle the week before. And last week, Joe Burrow on a blitz ran for a 48-yard touchdown. And they scored a touchdown in the final minutes of the game by Chase Brown. Otherwise, they completely defended the Cincinnati Bengal offense that had been putting up 35 points a game. This Kellen Moore offense of the Eagles is going to get challenged. I can't remember the last time 2 outside linebackers for the Giants, and I don't want to go back to Banks and Taylor, but I can't remember the last time 2 outside linebackers and Brian Burns and Azeez Ojulari affected the game the way they did against Cincinnati. They were dominant players, and then Dexter Lawrence inside. They were very good. The Eagles have their work cut out for them this week. Now, the Giants offense, was awful last week. Daniel Jones was not good. They lost their best offensive player in Andrew Thomas for the season to a Liz Frank injury. I don't know if Malik Neighbors plays or doesn't play. He's in concussion protocol still. He was as good a receiver the first 4 weeks of the season as there was in the NFL. So he makes a difference. Maybe the quarterback gets back to playing good football. But, Sirianni, like what he did during the game where he gets in it with fans that are booing him. First of all, it's childish. Second of all, I've never seen it. Third of all, there is no excuse to ever do that to any fan base. But the game is going on, and this is your concentration. Like, it's just strange to me. The quarterback finally played a game without turning it over. That's good. Not all the turnovers are his fault, but ball security was something they talked about during the bye week and emphasized which is good. And it showed up, took care of the football. He's got to continue. He's got to put a stretch of games together. The great quarterbacks go through stretches without turning it over and giving extra bats to the defense. Hainsley came back at center last week, replaced Graham Barton, played real well. But Graham Barton is a better player. It's good that Hainsley came in and played good, and they ran the ball great against the Saints. They were fantastic. But regardless, the Bucs have a running offense. Bucky Irving might be their best back. But, the kid they put in there last week was unbelievable. So you look at, their offensive line, and you look at, what Sean Tucker did. Sean Tucker did he have 192 total yards of offense? The Saints couldn't tackle him, and they couldn't cover him. He deserved more reps. But look, Hainsley happened to be the center last week for Barton, but Barton is really good, and he'll be back in there as soon as he's healthy enough to be back in there. But this is a great game against Baltimore. They're not going to run the ball like they did against, last week, like they did against the Saints. This Baltimore run defense, like they're stacked inside. Travis Jones is playing great. Matabike, like they're 4 deep. Pierce, they're 4 deep at defense tackle. They're not going to get those kind of runs that they got last week. But I take my hat off to Hainsley. He played great. Gedeke, the whole group. What do the Rams need to do defensively? Well, look, the Rams, they've drafted 4 defensive linemen in the first 3 rounds over the last 2 years. And I think all the players, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, the guys they drafted this year, I think they're all going to be great players. They all show up. They all play the game the right way. They got to get used to playing in the NFL. And, there's not Aaron Donald anymore to bail them out. So you just got to keep playing these kids. And, I remember Pete Carroll telling me years ago, about rookies that he always liked playing rookies. He liked playing freshmen when he was coach at USC. And he always said this to me, and I've never forgotten. He goes, if you play rookies, they might make mistakes early, and you might lose as a result early. But if they're the right guys and you drafted the right people, they're going to help win for you late. And I feel like, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, I feel like those guys are going to be very good players. And they drafted right. So let those guys keep playing. Just the way the Rams got better last year as the season went on with the development of Kyron Williams at running back, the play of the offensive line, they played themselves into the playoffs. They got better. I think they have a great coaching staff. I think the Rams' defense is going to get better as the season goes on. Remember, they traded away Edgar Jones right before the start of the season. So they lost their starting middle linebacker, right? They gave him away to Tennessee. I don't know why, but they did. So there's a lot of new players in new positions right there. Just give them time. I think they're going to be just fine. I think they got the right guys there. I like all of them. Anyways, this has been the Best Football Show. Thank you for joining me. This is a live broadcast. We're going to do this weekly. We'll start promoting it earlier and earlier in the week so you can tune in. I love all the comments right here. Thank you for the compliments. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends. Like it. Download it. Subscribe to it on your free Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcast from. And follow me throughout social media at Baldy NFL. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Enjoy week 7. It's here. It's here already. It starts tonight.